Hello, everyone. Welcome to our amazing virtual lunch today. We're so glad that you could join us, and today we're going to tell you about the Umoja project in Kenya, where our primary focus is food security for 3,200 kids in 19 schools, and we feed them lunch every day.
So we've talked in prior amazing lunches about access to food and food security being important key social determinants for health. From my perspective as a physician, malnutrition and starvation are medical problems which the school lunch program here in Kenya has truly addressed, impacting both the students and their families.
So let's take a look.
The roughness or smoothness of soil is called.
Very good. How do we call the roughness or the smoothness of the soil? You raise up your hands. Yes, David?
Soil texture.
Very good. So we say that is soil texture. So we are saying.
Before the food was introduced to the children would stay away from the school. Children would go out to do all sorts of jobs, helping their guardians to take care of the family.
The stories you are getting from the children, some of them were so hurting. When a kid tells you that last night we did not eat anything. In this part of Kenya, breakfast is something that is almost out of question to many children. So imagine a kid who did not take dinner, comes to school on empty stomach. The teachers used to tell us that by around midday, they were just drowsing, they were just daydreaming. So really there was bad hunger situation. After addressing the issue of food, when the kids were now assured that a school is a place I find food. So many children who were suffering from hunger then decided to enroll in schools, in those schools, in our schools.
The school staff clearly stated that it makes a difference in those students' performance, their energy levels, their absenteeism, and obviously the Umoja students perform very well on testing and are the high achievers as they move through the program.
It's a unique challenge for them because many of our families really survive on menial jobs, whether that's going to dig in someone else's garden, helping them plant, selling whatever vegetables they grow at the market, those kinds of things. So when you're mandated to stay home, that means just that small amount of income that they were giving. For us, it'd be like $1.50 a day. They're not even able to do that anymore. And so some of our students have said, we're really more worried about starving at this point than we are about getting the coronavirus. And we are doling out food to our child-headed households from the food stores that were at schools. We've gathered our staff, our project assistants, some of our alumni, and they've given out food to those child-headed households and some of our most vulnerable families. And we're hoping that that's going to get us by until the economy gets going again. But it's really watch and see right now, it's really makes your heart heavy. The amazing lunch always goes towards food. And as we work through this COVID crisis and we give out the food stores that was supposed to last to the end of the year, we may have to have an additional purchase of grains for that last term. We just don't know at this point. So certainly what Tabernacle can do to help, they always step up big.
I went to homes, and whenever I interacted with their guardians, they would tell me, "Madam, how I wish you were able to feed my children. It is unfortunate that I am the mother or I am the grandmother, but can you imagine I am unable to help? I am unable to feed my children." But then they would tell me that now that you have provided food, it is the easiest thing now for me. You have offloaded the biggest burden off my shoulders. I was like, wow. What is Umoja Project? What an answered prayer for this family.
Oh God, bless this food before we eat. In Jesus' name I pray.
The school lunch is critical, and as you can imagine, food security is not the only problem that these children experience. The Kenyan staff are also trying to address some of those other issues.
Many of the children are head of household and they have not had anyone to help mentor them. So there are social issues and basic issues, just like how do you bathe yourself?
In this next segment, we had the privilege of visiting the Girls and Boys Empowerment Program that the Kenyan staff established to address some of these issues.
Me for you. You for me. I can't be stopped. I can't be stopped. I can't be stopped. I'm Umoja, don't bother me. I'm Umoja, don't bother me.
Yes, you visit the hospitals, you start becoming familiar with being a doctor, isn't it? Yes. That is now making informed choice of whom you want to be, so that you start working towards being a teacher, isn't it? Yes. Yes. If you say, work towards that. What would you like to become? Wow, clap for her.
So for me, there is one thing that commonly spells either on the labia, you see the vagina has lips. Just like your mouth has lips, the vagina also has lips.
We have been able to find mentors who talk to the girls, who encourage them. You know, culturally, it is believed that it is your mother, it is your parents who are supposed to educate you about these, these issues. But then here comes Umoja children who do not have the guardian to play that role. But then fortunately, who do they have? They have Umoja Project, who has come in to play the role of being their mother.
What time will you get to school? Late.
We used to have high pregnancy cases which have dramatically gone down to near nil. We used to have low enrollment of the girl child. Today they are surpassing the boy child.
Okay?
It's half term, but you know my uncle is a teacher in such a such.
What Umoja? Umoja! Anybody got Umoja? Umoja! Boy child? Rise up! Anybody mal boy child? Rise up! Anybody mal boy child? Rise up! Umoja was forming parts of a nest. Do you know a nest? A nest where birds, birds usually like having a nest in a big tree.
So whenever we gather together and they get to be administered by their fellow Umoja boys who are graduated, you see there's that reality, that perspective way that they are going to see this life. For example, somebody will stand up and then tell them that I was once in your shoes, I was once like you, but I managed gradually with the help and the emotional support that I received from the Umoja project. I managed to make it, even though it was hard, but I managed to make it through primary, then proceeded to secondary, then even went up to college and cleared. So whenever they get to hear their fellows talking about the same things, then they say, yes, okay, this thing is possible.
You also, you should be ready to take over.
And again, while at school, I want you to tell me.
These are my private parts. No one should touch them. No one should.
Teenage teenage years are hard enough to go through with a parent, but without anybody, I think it's even more difficult for these children. And so I've just been so impressed with how open these people are that mentor, that come and do a talk for the girls and the boys, the depth of the conversation that they have with them. It's in a setting where it's the girls are doing it and the boys are doing it separately, so there's not an embarrassment type of issue between the two.
I thought the Get Up program, which we saw on a weekend, was phenomenal. I thought all children need to have such a program, not just children in Kenya. It would benefit so many kids because there's so much that we don't talk to our kids about in the American culture, but to be able to talk about topics like sexuality and career decisions and health among your peers and with teachers who are authorities to you, but they're still not your parents, was just great.
In the noontime, that's why I praise you. In the evening, that's why I praise you. All the time.
As we watched these programs, we were all just so impressed with the dedication and love and care that the Kenyan staff, the Kenyan teachers, and the mentors showed throughout these programs, and the creativity and enthusiasm that they showed for the students.
We saw a lot of places, a lot of programs, a lot of different faces. We also had the opportunity to visit 2 homes.
Wengine Charles uko na kaa vizuri sasa. Hapa tutoa sweta, jua iko kali.
Nakaa na sweta kama Umoja na kitusaidia hawa wajukuu wangu sana sana. Napatia hawa uniform, mabarangeti, naletea taya ya sola. Mvua ndio naharibu.
Zingine hizi ni Kenya Social alikuwa analia na zimeraruka sasa na tandika hapa. Science,
okay.
Kiswahili, English, and social studies.
Charles stays behind to clean the home, to take care of the animals, just cleaning the house and even cleaning the clothes.
Wow.
So he's a very responsible boy.
Kakua mzuri, na nguo ya wajukuu kafuliwa kwa safi. Hata kama naenda shuleni, masati na ngara, suruari na ngara, mwere yao na ngara.
I can tell you she's so excited. She's saying that the clothes are going to be clean. Even as they go to school, their uniforms are going to be clean now that she has soap to wash them.
Thank you.
Yeah. Napiga asante.
In the evening.
Okay.
Kopogore gi nyathini
An koro an gi nyikwaya.
Mimi mdogo wako class 4.
Antie class 4. Dani di nyaparo ndalo manothoe.
Wada dirwe nya nikech ndalo.
Kama for example ulikuwa na 73 unafu jaribu Shamim. Yeah. Shamim.
Very nice. The religious and social studies is combined as a subject. So
We do have some things.
she's saying God will bless you.
Kamano mama. Kamano Nyasaye ogwedhi mama. Hey,
Baba, ngasaya gwedhi mathoth, ngasaya gwedhi mang'eny. Erokamano maduong' nyara.
The Amazing Lunch is a critical fundraiser for the Umoja Project.
Thank you for joining us for this virtual lunch and for your support. And John Gable will tell you how you can help.
I want to thank you for joining us for this virtual Amazing Lunch. Oh, how we regret that we aren't able to do this in person, particularly since we have a group of TAB members and friends that have recently been to Kenya and have wonderful stories to tell. But we'll save those for another day. The videos that Dave took and the stories that we're hearing and that you've even heard today tell about a real need among our vulnerable and orphaned children in Kenya. I visited the Umoja Project in January of 2012. That's 8 years ago now. And even over that amount of time, I can very quickly call up the sights and the sounds of those children's faces and voices, the smells of the noon meal of maize and beans, the joy and the laughter of these children. I'm sure you noticed these kids have wonderful smiles and they love to have their pictures taken. But I also can call up very easily the desperate conditions of the homes in which they are living, the threat and the vulnerability that underlies every story we heard, and the depth of faith we heard and saw that was lived out literally every day. They live a give us this day our daily bread kind of existence. So as I say, I can go back to Kenya very easily and readily in my mind. And as I hear their stories, I also hear their struggles. And that's why the Umoja Project is very close to me and to many of us here at TAB. Even under the best of conditions, which hardly seems imaginable to say, but the threat to these orphan and vulnerable children is very real. The meal we serve them is likely the only meal they will have that day, and many of the children take at least a portion of the meal home with them, either for them to eat later in the evening or even to share with a family member at home. Those are under the best conditions. And now with the COVID-19 pandemic, even those desperate conditions have been worsened. With schools closed now, these same orphans and vulnerables are even more vulnerable, not just to the disease and to the hunger that goes with it, but now to the very real possibility of starvation. And that is simply unimaginable to me. In response, the Umoja partners have sent food supplies home to feed not only the children that we normally would feed, but also their families as well, which means now the need is greater still and the need for our help is greater still. One of the questions many of us have found ourselves asking during this time of pandemic is, well, what can I do? And we will admit a certain level of frustration. Well, here is something you can do. 14 cents feeds a child in the Umoja Project for a day. $25 feeds an Umoja child for a year. Isn't that a staggering thought? $25. $2,579 provides the maize and beans for an entire school of these children. Under these current circumstances, $25 now is really feeding a family. And that not for a year, but at least for a period of time. And we are being given the opportunity to do something. And we invite you to do something with us now. So how do we do that? Well, you could send a check to TAB, make it payable to TAB, put in the memo line Umoja. Or you could go to the tabpres.org webpage, tap on the giving, and then follow the link to the drop-down that will say Umoja Project. Your support is always needed, and perhaps you can see it's needed now more so than ever before. Here at TAB, we talk a good deal about having greater faith, deeper relationships, a stronger community. I believe that the Umoja Project ticks all of those boxes. Greater faith. partnering with schools, yes, but also with churches to care for these orphans and vulnerables. Deeper relationships. Even in this time of separation, we from one another, we are being joined together over all of these miles as we respond to this need of our children in Kenya. And a stronger community. In the parable of the Good Samaritan, Jesus challenges us to rethink what we mean by our neighbor. Who is your neighbor? We would traditionally think of our neighbor as being the one next door. Jesus invites us to think in terms of our neighbor being the one who is in need. Through the Umoja Project, we are responding to the needs of our neighbors, these children in Kenya. By feeding the Umoja children, we are literally changing lives, increasing attendance, boys and girls, increasing performance. Our Umoja children are moving to the top of their classes simply because they have this minimal amount of food each day. We're increasing competency and completion of primary school. We're increasing matriculation into secondary school. Umoja is literally helping to see whole communities changed by helping one child at a time, one school at a time. So I hope you'll join us in responding to this need and this great opportunity. My suspicion is if you clicked to join in this virtual Umoja Amazing meal that you came prepared to help in some way. So I want to thank you already for joining us today and also for your generosity.
We are serving the living God.